An undulated sky melted into the landscape. Two silhouettes moved along the blasted walkway, and the ghostly figures featured extend in agony. Since Norwegian artist Edvard Munch created the scream in 1893, it's become one of the world's most famous artworks. But why has its cry traveled so far and endured so long? Munch was born in 1863 from the five children. Tuberculosis devastated Europe throughout the 1800s, killing almost a quarter of all adults. It took Munch's mother's life, then his elder sister. Soon after, Munch had his own bout of the disease. Another of his sisters experienced mental illness and lived much of her life in the institution. Meanwhile, Munch felt it in and out of school due to illness, often spending days at home, drawing and listening to the ominous stories his father read aloud. A devout Lutheran, his father considered Munch's artistic ambition unholy. I inherited the seeds of madness, Munch wrote. The angels of fear, sorrow, and death stood by my side since the day I was born. Eventually, Munch moved to Berlin, where he frequented creative circles committed to breaking with academic tradition and instead developing the craft organically. While Munch had trained classically, he began immersing himself in what he called soul painting, composition that prized raw, subjective affect over realistic rendering. It's not the chair that should be painted, he wrote, but what a person had felt at the sight of it. Many of Munch's works dealt with personal suffering. This may have also led to certain critics observed an unsympathetic portrayal of women in works where Munch represented them as cruel predators victimizing helpless men. And death often haunted Munch's composition, from a skeleton helming a boot to a morbid self-portrait, and his sister's final moment to mother on her deathbed, her child assuming a now familiar expression. Munch art generated controversy. Some critics characterized him as absolutely demented, but it also drew acclaim, and what would become his most famous work was just around the corner. The scream was inspired a moment that overwhelmed Munch with an acute sense of anguish. In a diary entry marked January 22nd in 1892, Munch described walking with two friends along the field overlooking what's now Oslo at sunset. He leaned against a fence, exhausted, as he saw the sky change suddenly. He described blood and the tongues of the fire above the blue field and the city. As his friend walked on, Munch wrote, I stood there, trembling with anxiety, and sensed an infinite scream passing through nature. As with other painful experiences, Munch revisited the scene repeatedly. First, he depicted it with more recognizably human subject, but the following year he surrendered it to a dramatic, abstracted symbolism, the haunted expression on the figure's skull-like face meeting with the viewer's gaze directly. On this first version, he added a subtle, bright inscription. Could only have been painted by a madman. Based on Munch's account, many think the figure isn't emitting the shrink, but reacting to it. Munch eventually made 4 versions of Scream, all on cardboard, 2 with pastel, 2 with paint, and he created numerous prints and lithographs. The year following the first Scream, he depicted the same setting, but featured a collection of despairing faces. In late 1893, Munch premiered The Scream at a solo exhibit in Berlin. The artwork bold composition helped fuel the expressionist movement, which likewise emphasized stark psychological states, mapping the emotional contours of World War I and beyond. The Scream continued its crescendo. When it entered the public domain in mid-1900, new rendition and reproduction bolstered its fame. It featured the popular film during the 1990s, and both painted versions of The Scream were stolen and recovered in separate heists in 1994 and 2004. Soon enough, it was a widely accepted archetypal symbol, for horror and anguish. The scream-inspired emoji was eventually implemented, and considering how to mark hazardous sites so far off, future generations could know to avoid them. The US government has considered using the scream expression. While its myriad cultural influence may not always reflect the personal agony Munch initially rendered, the scream has certainly found a near universal echo.